Greetings, pledges. Today we're discussing something unfashionable but immortal: monotony. Amber Valletta's been thin since the 90s. You know what that means. She has a system, and you don't. So we're meeting with another company tomorrow, and my boss gives me his credit card, and he's like, why don't you pick up some bagels for the morning meeting? And he's like, why don't you stop at the grocery store tonight? Because he knows I go to the grocery store after work every day. And why don't you pick up some vegan cream cheese? Because he knows I don't do dairy. And I'm like, that's sweet. I'll think about it. There's no way in hell. I already went to the grocery store. I'm back home now. There's no way I was getting cream cheese, vegan or not. A bagel and cream cheese does not fit into my system. It does not fit into my daily rhythm. I have fruit for breakfast every single day. It's not something I think about. It's not a question like, oh, what am I going to have for breakfast tomorrow? I'm having fruit for breakfast. And some of you have a weight problem because you have a problem with monotony. You have a problem with every day looking similar to the last day. But that's how your waistline stays similar. Your waistlines are expanding because you're constantly seeking variety. And some of you don't even have a system, and we'll get into that. But for those of you who do, you will look for any and every opportunity to abandon that system. Every day is a special occasion. Everything's a holiday. Everything becomes sacred. My boss orders food every week. We have meetings every week. He's ordering breakfast. He's ordering lunch. So what do you think? That every week I'm going to be having pastrami on rye, a sub with chips, slices of pizza? There are very few reasons for me to go off script, and breakfast bagels for the office meeting is not one of them. Now, if my boss has said, hey, we're ordering breakfast from this diner, get what you like, and I look at the menu and I see that maybe they have a veggie omelet, that might be an acceptable swap for my fruit. I still would probably choose a fruit bowl. But do you see what I'm saying? There is no way that a bagel and cream cheese is an acceptable swap for pineapple. And so today, our conversation is about how monotony is maintenance mastery, and how repetition within the correct framework will guarantee that you look good for decades to come. So I saw a picture of Amber Valletta. This was like a couple days ago, and I was thinking to myself, like, our girl still looks good. She's still got it. And there's a few models from the 90s that have kept their frame. And you have to understand, these women are not maintaining from their mood. They are maintaining from their methods. They're not maintaining from like, ooh, that sounds good. Staying thin requires repetition, portion clarity, and structure. There are models who let themselves go after their runway years, and there are some that don't. And the difference between the two is that one was performing for a paycheck, and the other was aligned with an identity of being thin. They had an identity that respected and honored a system that honored them. And some of you aren't even interested in being thin long term. Some of you just want to lose weight. You don't actually want to be thin. You don't want to do what thinness requires day in and day out. You are literally just addicted to the drama of transformation, the high of getting on the scale and watching the numbers drop, the high of starting a new system. Some of you have been on 1,000 systems. And when you get to your happy weight, when you reach your goal weight and the scale stops moving, you stop getting a dopamine fix. You have lost 100 pounds 100 times. And when it's time now to maintain, to repeat, to stabilize, you get bored and you quote unquote fall off the system, because eventually the high wears off. And what you're left with is daily, repeatable habits. And if you didn't build anything sustainable, if you didn't find the system that you were performing enjoyable in any way, you will go right back to where you came from. This is why people gain all the weight back after Ozempic. But some of these models, they didn't have a system, right? Some of them had what it takes to be thin for decades. But maintaining that level of thinness for 20, 30, 40 years, that is a different kind of energetic containment. That is a different kind of aesthetic discipline. And some of you are just looking for food freedom. I don't even know what that means. The freedom to eat whatever you want, whenever you want. Women who have average bodies are women who are constantly chasing variety and calling it freedom. Women who have elite physiques, women who are model adjacent, they are chasing consistency because they know that it yields results. Ozempic is not a long-term strategy for thinness, and neither is motivation. Long-term thinness comes from embracing monotony as mastery. You don't have to get realistic as you age. Amber Valletta isn't blessed with a faster metabolism or better genetics than you. She has exercised the muscle of rhythm and structure and discipline. She is practicing a self-contained identity. Being thin is who she is. She doesn't need an external reward system. She doesn't need a paycheck from a modeling agency. She's not doing it for male validation. Someone left a comment on one of my videos, and she basically said that she was no longer model thin because she found that men didn't find that frame attractive, and now she gets more male attention from whatever she currently looks like. I imagine the fat acceptance movement would still consider her to be thin. But I was just thinking to myself, like, what is your point? I am in no way thin to be attractive to the average man. I'm not modifying my body for male validation. When Amber Valletta wakes up in the morning, I promise you she knows what she's eating for breakfast. She might have 2 or 3 possible options that fit within her framework, but if someone offers her a bagel, she is not thinking in her head like, ooh, do I want an Asiago bagel or do I want a cinnamon crunch bagel? Now, if she was invited to a bagel workshop where a French chef was making bagels and she was participating, now this is an opportunity to have a bagel. Now it makes sense to have a bagel. Some of you act like you don't know what a bagel tastes like you don't remember. You don't remember what pizza tastes like. That's why you need to have it on Friday, because your company purchased it, right? You will abandon structure for any reason. You packed your lunch. You already decided what you were eating at noon, and you will toss that lunch in the trash in a blink of an eye if somebody suggests ordering something at your job. Now you're eating a sub sandwich with chips. Is that what you packed for lunch? Did you work a sub sandwich and chips into your framework for that day? No? And that's why you don't look like a model. Long-term thinness does not come from excitement, right? Us having bagels tomorrow for this meeting is not exciting. I'm not excited for bagels, but I promise you there will be people at the meeting who know that bagels are coming and they're excited right now. Right now they're excited to eat a bagel tomorrow. If you think a bagel is exciting, it's time to pack it up. If you think a slice of pizza is exciting, you are going to have an impossible time keeping your weight off. There is always going to be somebody bringing in cookies, cakes, chips, pretzels. There is always food. But where is your respect for your system? You're somewhere romanticizing a slice of greasy pizza that you've eaten too many times. You've had enough pizza. Instead of romanticizing repetition, instead of realizing that by being boring, you get to tap into being beautiful. And this is a mindset shift. So I'm going to be teaching you how to construct within the framework of a model-coded system, something that works for you, right? Because I can tell you what I'm doing. I can tell you what some of the models are doing. But your daily habits and your repetition has to make sense to you. A fruit breakfast might not work for you. Fruit holds me beautifully. It might not do that for you. You might need eggs for breakfast. You might need avocado toast, and you're going to code that into your daily system. But some of you don't have systems to begin with. If somebody asked me right now, what did I have for lunch 3 days ago? I could tell you. It wouldn't take me 2 seconds. I can tell you exactly what I had for lunch 2 days ago. I could tell you what I had for lunch 2 weeks ago, and I wouldn't have to consult my fitness pal or my food journal. And this is what I mean when I talk about a repeatable system. You don't know what you ate yesterday. You don't know how much you're eating. You don't know how many calories you're consuming. You don't even have a plan for dinner this evening. You can't tell me right now what you're having for dinner today. And that is the difference, okay? Amber Valletta has been living inside a repeatable system for decades. And some of you might call that boring. You might call that obsessive. I call it precision. She probably has things in her closet from the 90s that she can still wear. That's mastery. And you all are eating inconsistently, or you're eating the same garbage every week, and you're calling it intuitive eating. There is nothing intuitive about that. That's impulsive. If you want to be thin for 20, 30 years, if you want to be a 70-year-old size 0, then you need to get ready for meals that are boring and for a system that's tight so that you can have a weight that's predictable. You all are scared to get on the scale because you don't know what it's going to say. I know exactly what the scale is going to say every single day. When I get on the scale, I'll be in my head like, yeah, I'm probably up 0.5 because I had a little fun yesterday. but I know exactly what the scale is going to say. What time do you eat lunch? What do you do when you're not hungry, but it's mealtime? What did you eat last Wednesday? If you don't know, if you can't answer these questions, it's because you don't have a workable system. You certainly don't have a model-coded system. Let me tell you what variety looks like to someone who has a system. It's, do I want salmon and broccoli? Ooh, or do I want tofu and broccoli? That's variety. Do I want broccoli or do I want Brussels sprouts? That's variety. Not, do I want what I packed for lunch or do I want a pastrami on rye with chips and a pickle because that's what my coworkers are ordering? Thinness that lasts is never random. It is systemized, it is structured, and it's boring in the best way. You have to build an identity system, something that's running on the subconscious level. So you're not thinking about these things. You're not thinking, oh, I wonder what I'm gonna have for breakfast. Ooh, I wonder what sounds good for breakfast. I know what I'm having, and it's fruit, and I'm excited. The variety now becomes, what kind of fruit am I gonna have for breakfast? There's 1,000 fruits that I could have. And so you're going to have a mindset shift about what variety looks and feels like if you want to be thin long term. There are models who aren't thin anymore, and they'll tell you that it's because they're embracing their body now. But in my opinion, what they did was abandon structure, or they never had a healthy structure to begin with. You know, some of these models, their systems involved cigarettes, Coke, Diet Coke, and unhealthy eating. And that'll get you through 10 years of modeling, which is how long most of them have in the industry anyway. But it's not going to get you through 3 decades. Not with vitality, not with glow. Amber Valletta looks good. She looks good. She looks like she has structure. She looks regulated. And that's the difference between being thin for a season and thin for a lifetime. The difference between self-destruction, which is what some of these models did, and self-discipline, which is what some of these models have. And that's why they still look good today. And so I need you all to understand that I'm not interested in getting you to copy me in any way. I am going to talk about what I do and what my system looks like. But my goal is to free you from every chaotic and unsustainable system. That's why I had to do my little protein rants. So you can stop having protein powder for breakfast if you don't actually enjoy protein powder. I've never met anybody who does enjoy protein powder, but I want you to be able to create a system that works for you. I'll tell you what I do. I will share model-coded frameworks that you can build within, because there are still certain principles and there's still a structure that comes with a model aesthetic. But having long-term success with any system only comes when you create something that you actually like. And that's why some of you only lasted so long on keto. That's why some of you only lasted so long on any of the 1,000 diets that you did, is because you were following somebody else's design and not your own logic and not your own internal compass and not your own taste buds. You're eating things you don't like. You don't have to eat cottage cheese if you don't like cottage cheese, okay? And so I have a homework assignment for you guys. And it's something that I want you to think about, because these are the things that are helpful in terms of creating a long-term system for yourself. And that is, what diets have you done? You've been on a diet since you were 12 years old. I want you to think about every diet you've ever done. And you can do this on paper, you can do this in your head. Keto, Weight Watchers, vegan, raw vegan, MyFitnessPal, South Beach Diet, Jenny Craig, Slim Fast, the cabbage soup diet. You've been on every single diet, and I want you to ask yourself, what did you like about each one? What was enjoyable? What was easy to follow? Did you enjoy drinking bulletproof coffee and fasting until 1 p.m. when you were on keto, but you hated everything else? Did you love banking your points on Weight Watchers and like rolling your points over to use on Friday to have a really great meal with your husband? Once you understand what structures you enjoyed from some of these systems, then you can start to construct your own. So for example, I lived in Bali for a year, and there's a million raw food restaurants. I had an amazing time. There were aspects of the lifestyle that I enjoyed, and so I decided to incorporate that into my current system. So I still have my fruit breakfast, and I still juice on Sundays. And I just believe in fasting, period. But do you see what I'm saying? This is something that works for me. You might not even, I know people who don't even like fruit. You all are weird. But you don't have to eat fruit if you don't like it. You don't have to have a fruit breakfast if that doesn't work for you. Your system system, the one that's going to keep you model thin, still has to align with your identity to a certain extent. Obviously, you can't have pancakes and bacon and waffles for breakfast just because that's what you enjoy. There's still rules and there's still visual outcomes tied to certain, food choices. But there is so much room for you all to build a structure that you actually enjoy. That is the goal. Not blind copying, not forced compliance, a self-designed system within a model framework that is going to keep you thin for decades to come. A breakfast that might be monotonous, but it's still one that you enjoy. And this is going to require a little trial and error, but ultimately this is about enjoying taste within reason and finding freedom within a frame. And so I will give you the model frameworks. I'll give you the rules for the aesthetic, and what you build within that, that's on you. Your daily habits, your repetition still needs to make sense to you. And when I talk about repeatable systems, I am not talking about MyFitnessPal. I'm not talking about calorie counting every single day. Do you need calorie awareness? Yes. But the models aren't counting their calories every day. Because when you eat meals that are familiar, repeatable, and designed to work, you already know how many calories they are. You already know that they fit within your framework. The only reason why you have to plug food into an app is because you're trying to fit Doritos or cheesecake or a random sandwich somebody brought into the office. So you're not tracking for precision at this point. You're just tracking to justify chaos. You're tracking because you're being impulsive. And so the goal is not to live inside a food log or a calorie tracker. The goal is to get so familiar with your system that you'll know when something doesn't fit. You won't need an app to tell you that. And I know some of you are going to be asking, well, that sounds really restrictive. When do I get to have something enjoyable? What about a model's cheat days? Do they have cheat days? And I'm going to ask you, how often do you cheat on your husband? That's how often they have cheat days. When I talk about mindset, about thinness being an identity, in the same way that you honor your relationship with your partner, that's how sacred your relationship should be to your system. Your relationship with some stanky man is sacred, but your relationship with your body is somehow negotiable, disposable, something that you betray. You cheat on yourself every Friday night and promise to start over on Monday. You have more reverence for your relationship with a man than you do with your relationship with your body. Would you blow up your marriage for a donut? But you will sacrifice your system every opportunity you get. When my boss asked me if I wanted a bagel with schmear, he might as well have asked me, would I like to cheat on my husband with a random man from a bar? Ew. This is the mindset shift that when you make it, you remaining thin becomes inevitable. And I'm not saying you can't ever indulge, you can't ever have fun ever again, but models code their indulgence into their structure. It's intentional. It's not a binge disguised as balance. So the next time you ask how often models cheat on their diet, ask yourself how often you cheat on yourself. Now that we've properly romanticized repetition, let's move on to this week's house updates. Patreon is now live. 1 video a week here on YouTube. 2 videos a week inside the house, plus a Friday Q&A. There are already 5 videos waiting for you the second you join. The YouTube community tab is now open. Drop your questions in there for Friday's Q&A and check the tab weekly for updates. And Monday's drop is called Pop-Tart Priestess. She was hospitalized for anorexia. Now she's selling you snacks. This is not a coincidence. This is the blueprint. You are being sold programs by women who once had to be locked up and force-fed. And now they're repackaging their neuroses into pastel meal plans and calling it healing. You binge, they restricted. You spiral with food, they spiraled without it. Their content was never made for you. You're trying to heal your relationship with a Pop-Tart using advice from someone who cried over a banana. No wonder nothing's working. You're looking for help in all the wrong temples. Next week, we'll be pulling the veil all the way back. We'll be talking about how everything you've learned, intuitive eating, food freedom, moderation culture, was written by women trying to survive breakfast. You were never their target audience. You were just profitable. And the week after that, we begin building the only thing that actually works, a system. YouTube has already flagged my content as dangerous, restricted it, and demonetized it, because God forbid I tell the truth. So if you want access to the real material, the full system, the visual breakdowns, the PDFs, the audios, the names, you know where to find it. This space isn't soft, it's structured, and it's about to get very honest. See you in the house. Trigger warning.